Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Salebox for the 23rd of December 2014. My name is TotalBiscuit, rounding up today's Steam deals. If you missed yesterday's, check out yesterday's video. They should still be available. Is there something in Community Choice that you want? No, because they voted for Orion Prelude for no good reason. What the hell is wrong with you? You had IL-2 Stormovich as an option, and you picked Orion Prelude. Oh my god. Ugh. Idiots. Alright, let's begin, shall we, with Age of Wonders 3, 66% off. You can also get a discount on the DLC, the expansion pack, which is certainly worth getting. Not a brilliant discount on that, though, only 33% off. Age of Wonders 3 is a really good game, though, no doubt about that. It's a fantasy 4X strategy with a large unit variety, some really nice tactical combat, and a very cool aesthetic indeed. A lot of variety when it comes to character creation and kind of class race combinations. It also has a very lengthy campaign. It's laden with content. I enjoyed Age of Wonders 3 a great deal. I wouldn't necessarily bother with the Deluxe Edition DLC, however. That's just a soundtrack in a scenario. It's not really worth your time. Just Cause 2, 80% off. Do you not own this game already? You should, because it's amazing. Absolutely incredible, and indeed the multiplayer mod was developed over the course of a number of years and is also available, and it's well worth playing. You can download it for free. All the DLCs also 80% off, so it costs next to nothing. There's a few extra vehicles and weapons here and there. It's not brilliant DLC, but it is cheap as chips. This is an open world game about complete and total chaos. It's ridiculous. It just cranks everything up to 11 in every possible respect. It's one of the best open world action games on PC as far as I'm concerned. And if you don't already own it, then what on earth is wrong with you? Goat Simulator, 50% off. Well, it's better than it was. Originally, Goat Simulator was a stupid joke as far as I'm concerned. Now, it's got a bunch of extra content in the form of Goat MMO Simulator, which is significantly funnier and actually has an awful lot more going on with it. It's still something of a theme park as opposed to a sandbox. It's described as a physics sandbox, but really there's not actually that much sandbox going on. But Goat MMO Simulator, for those of us who have actually played MMOs, is a reasonably good time. It is pretty damn funny, I will admit. I found the original game to be tedious and frankly pointless, but with the DLC, it may actually be worth a look if you want a couple of hours of laughs. Payday 2, 75% off. Most of the DLC is also heavily discounted as well, although not entirely. Things like the Diamond Heist and Clover, which is the new character, they are only 10% off because they only just came out. All the rest of it is 75% off. So this is a co-op heist game, and it's for the most part a wave-based shooter, although you can avoid a lot of those components by being stealthy. That's kind of the neat thing about it. You don't have to slaughter hundreds of cops. You can in fact be very sneaky and actually execute the job without setting off the alarms, which I find is a particularly neat feature. The main problem I have with Payday 2 is that if you don't have a group of friends to play it with, you might have problems finding games, because a lot of people are very high level now, and they expect you also to be high level with all of the perks and things like that. So it can be difficult to get into a game without having friends along for the ride. If you do have a group of friends to play with, though, this game has a ton of content and replayability. It's a really fun co-op experience. Scribblenauts Unlimited, 75% off. This is the best one of the series as far as I'm concerned. Unmasked is also on sale, but just isn't as good. The main reason for that is the mission generation system, which is in Unmasked, which isn't particularly compelling, whereas Unlimited has a bunch of handcrafted puzzles and crazy ideas which lead to some really amusing situations. This is a game where you can conjure almost anything using the power of your magic notebook, so you can summon Cthulhu or Giant Cthulhu or whatever you damn well please in an attempt to solve problems, and there's all sorts of hijinks that ends up going on as a result. Like, Unlimited is absolutely worthwhile. Unmasked, not so much. I don't really see the addition of the DC characters actually being too much of a boon, and I think the puzzle design and the way that the hub world works in that game is a hell of a lot weaker than Unlimited. So give Unlimited a shot. It's a really original and interesting experience. Garry's Mod, 75% off. This is mostly played these days for things like Prop Hunt and Trouble in Terrorist Town. It's essentially a giant physics sandbox game which allows you to manipulate various items from the source engine and put them together in sort of crazy scenarios, but most people play it these days for the different game modes and mods that have been integrated into it. If you've seen anyone playing Trouble in Terrorist Town or Prop Hunt, the chances are you probably know exactly why it's fun, and the chances are you already own the game as a direct result. If you do wish to just create a bunch of crazy stuff, then you can do that as well, although it's more of a toy at that point as opposed to an actual video game. Bioshock Infinite, 75% off. I have made my outspoken opinions on this game abundantly clear over the last couple of years. The DLC for this game is also 50% off. Now, if you buy the Season Pass, you'll save a bit of money as opposed to buying Burial at Sea 1 and 2. You do also get Clash in the Clouds, which is frankly a pointless waste of time, but Burial at Sea 1 and 2 are, in my opinion, actually better than the original game themselves. Very nice pieces of DLC for that game. Wonderfully realized and beautiful world, but simultaneously a game that really is lacking in the gunplay department. Had several steps back, frankly, compared to Bioshock 2. Is highly linear, and the storyline doesn't actually make a great deal of sense. There's an awful lot of plot holes that you figure out by the end of it as a result of the whole time travel thing going on. But frankly, the vast majority of people disagree with me when it comes to Bioshock Infinite, so maybe you might want to listen to them instead. To me, it's a somewhat subpar single-player shooter in a very, very interesting and cool world that frankly I would have liked to experience in a different genre. Asseto Corsa, 50% off. This was in early access. It is now fully released as of December the 19th. It's a racing sim, and as a result, you're probably going to want to play this with a wheel. What I will say about Asseto Corsa is that it's surprisingly accessible. It's not that complicated to get into. The problem is that it's just not that satisfying either unless you're playing in a reasonably proper simulation setup. So if you've got a pad, yeah, you can play it. If you've got a keyboard, well, yeah, you can play it. But you're probably not going to get the enjoyable experience that you would get from, say, a force feedback wheel or anything along those lines. But it is a very beautiful simulation game with a really solid driving model. It's a decent entry-level game if you're looking to get into actual racing sims as opposed to arcadey racing titles. It's not my thing, honestly. I'm not really into racing sims. I don't find them particularly compelling, but Asseto Corsa is on the list of some of the best available on PC at the moment. And finally, Game of Thrones, a Telltale game series, 25% off, so it's a small discount on a game that really only just came out a few weeks ago. Unsurprising. This gets you the whole set of episodes. Currently, there is only one episode available, which will clock you in at about 2 to 2.5 hours in order to get through. It is very much the Telltale formula at the moment. It's a bunch of choices that have to be made, it's a lot of dialogue that gives you a limited amount of time to respond, and there are occasional QTEs along with it. It is one of those narrative game experiences. For a fan of the Game of Thrones television series, it's very nice because it contains numerous actors from the series that do great performances, and you'll get to interact with famous characters from the series in a way that doesn't appear to be all that contrived. I enjoyed my discussion with Cersei Lannister very much. I found that stressful and intimidating. In fact, that's actually the whole way the game feels, and it doesn't actually hold back on the grim stuff either. The problem with Telltale, and as to whether or not this is going to end up being the case in Game of Thrones, we're just going to have to wait and see, is that a lot of the choices that appear to mean something don't end up meaning anything by the end of it. We have no idea if this is still going to be the case with Game of Thrones. A lot of people are prejudging it, and that's a little bit unfair because we have no idea whether those choices will really make too much of a difference and just how much branching there's actually going to be. If you're looking for a Game of Thrones narrative experience, though, this is what this game is. It should be right up your alley, and it delivers that in spades. Alright, folks, that is me done for the day. Thank you very much for watching the Salebox, and I'll see you next time.